So, the Game Awards, or as I like to call it, Jeff Keighley's annual advertisement and Kojima Fest. Yes, the show happened a couple days ago, and I have to say it was a little better than last year's, I'll give him that. And it's kind of weird that the Muppets, Stadler and Waldorf, were basically the voice of the audience, especially the online audience.
Did you catch all that?
No, but I wish the rest of the show went that fast.
Yeah, it's like the game commercials with award interruptions.
Oh!
But it's true. There is a bunch of advertisements, and honestly, not a lot of awards given to some of the teams that worked very hard on them. So at one point, the Muppets said something about how he was just like rifling off a bunch of awards, and it's true. Like, don't you want those teams to come up, accept their award, show off and be proud of all the work that they did? Is there not enough room in that auditorium for Hollywood people and the actual developers? Maybe get a larger theater next time. But I will say, good job on less Hollywood people, Hollywoodization than last year. I guess Ella Purnell takes the place of Anthony Mackie from last year, but at least her and Kojima, I think, are friends. So I'm kind of divided in this. I am excited to see new projects and new game trailers and stuff like that, because especially E3 is gone. So where else do we really have? We have Summer Games Fest, which is also Jeff Keighley. And then we also have like the companies slowly giving out information or a direct or streaming some content for, people. So that missing piece of game announcements, game trailers, this kind of takes the place of that. And with 150 some odd million people watching, I guess it's a good investment. And this is definitely Jeff and his company's way of making money, since it's not an easy and cheap production to do. It's a pretty big thing. It's not like filming in your spare bedroom. So with all that being said, I get it, but it was kind of a weird year, because on one hand you had the industry reeling from layoffs, from lower numbers of staff working on these AAA, quadruple A games in some regards, and the companies being front and center at the awards. So for Jeff, I imagine it was kind of a tightrope to walk. You want to, give some lip service to the workers, but at the same time, where your bread is being buttered. And they buttered that bread. There was so many game trailers. But that's my biggest critique, is that I wish there was at least a couple of categories where the team got to go up and thank everybody for playing their game and for enjoying it. Especially like the sound design. If I feel like sound design is a big deal, it makes the animations and the graphics real, just like animation movies. So congrats to the Hellblade team, amazing job in this game. And of course to Melina Jorgensen. Yeah, exactly.
Melinda Juergens.
So called it, yep. Melina Juergens, yep. This is gonna be their only award too. Well, there's Melinda Juergens. Man, they really rolled him out, huh? Great job, Microsoft. I'm sure it was worth it. Oh, and these guys.
Applause to these two guys for the great circle.
So at least Harrison Ford is in a video game, his face. And I guess last year, Timothée Chalamet was a YouTuber at one point modding Xbox 360 controllers, and dude's walking around with Beyblades, so I guess he's alright too in my book. But last year, man, left a really bad taste in my mouth with them pushing the developers and people giving speeches off of the stage with the behind the scenes footage showing the TV saying wrap it up, and then them playing off the stage. This year, I could tell there was a much different tone. They were going to give everybody their time to speak. They didn't care if they went long, which honestly, you shouldn't. This is the internet, not on TV. You don't have a time that you have to end at. But I get it. You have to stuff as many advertisements as possible to make that money. Maybe don't let someone talk for 15 minutes and they're just an actor in a video game. Maybe that. But again, congrats to Melina. She did a great job. That was well deserved. Same as the sound design team for Hellblade 2. I just wish that, you know, they got to go up on stage and be proud of the work that they did. Speaking of those advertisements, there's a little bit of a hullabaloo with a couple of them. The biggest one right now is the Naughty Dog announcement of this game called Intergalactic: The Heretic Prophet. All of that doesn't say anything to me. That's just a bunch of words together, but it seems like it is a futuristic sci-fi action adventure game, kind of harkening back to their Ratchet and Clank roots, I believe. I think they made Ratchet and Clank, or is it they make Jack and Daxter? One of those two, I forget. But they're going back to those roots, a more action-based. It's a futuristic 1986, so a bunch of the technology is from the 80s and then just futurized, like a Porsche and some Sony stuff. By the way, this is a Sony title. I didn't know if you were aware of that. 15 of the nominations were Sony. But anyways, the big hullabaloo about this trailer was the lead character, who is played by Tati Gabrielle, and she has a shaved head. Okay, if they want to have a shaved head character, go for it. I have a shaved head. I see women with shaved heads. It's all good. Whatever they want for the story, whatever they want for this universe, they can do whatever they want. Story-wise, it looks like she's a bounty hunter who ends up on a planet. We'll see. Looks like I'll be playing it probably a year after it's released on PlayStation. Huh, Sony. Another big surprise was the Okami sequel. Now, this is actually 20 years or so in the making, so I never really played the first one. I think it was on GameCube. Maybe it did come out on PS2. I don't remember. But this really just shows that Capcom is increasing their development teams. And honestly, great for them. That's awesome. Where we see Western companies laying off people and having hard times, it seems like the Japanese companies are hiring. So congrats to them, and let's keep up the great work. I've been enjoying the Resident Evil games, and you know, using RE engine for an Okami might be freaking badass. The other hullabaloo is The Witcher 4. So Ciri is now a Witcher. I didn't finish playing Witcher 3. I don't know anything about the story, haven't read the books, and I watched one season of The Witcher show. So I am not a lore expert. I couldn't get into the weeds with you right there. But honestly, the character model, she doesn't look bad. If you guys are saying that that is bad, then I don't know. Something's weird with you, bro. Next is Elden Ring Night Rain. Now, this one is a little weird because we were kind of expecting a drop-in, drop-out multiplayer version of Elden Ring, but it turns out this might be a amalgam, a mixture of roguelike plus battle royale plus bosses from multiple FromSoft games. Like, can you just take that code and put it into this game? Yeah, we can do that. And then it's multiplayer. So it's 3 people or up to 3 people. So I don't know what to expect from this one. I heard a little bit of previews that people have played it. Haven't seen any other footage other than what we've seen, because I don't think they're allowed to give us footage. But this one's a little bit weird. And I know that the ask has been there because there's an easy drop in, drop out mod for multiplayer on Elden Ring. And guess what? It was fun. I've played it. So to have this, it's kind of like, it's weird. This might be them dipping their toes into the multiplayer sphere. Next is Fumito Ueda's new game. It's called Project Robot. I think this looks pretty cool. It's more of a tone piece than an actual playtest or play preview. It looks very dire, very serious, and you're kind of like salvaging mechs. So are you salvaging pieces and then make your own mech? I don't know. That's gonna be kind of crazy, but since it's from the same creator as Ico and Shadow of the Colossus, I can imagine it's gonna be a pretty emotional experience. Although, didn't The Last Guardian not go over so well? I didn't play it. I think it was a PlayStation only game. Split Fiction was announced from Hazelight Studios, who made award-winning It Takes Two. I think this looks cool. I think this looks fun, and it looks great. So if you're into co-op games, the great part about it too is that you can just buy one copy and then you both can play it. So great job there. They definitely do have this split screen down pat, and to kind of have fantasy and sci-fi elements brought into it could be a great time. So I imagine like a good 6 to 8 hour game, maybe less, but just a great time. You know, that's all that one is. But hey, that guy's awesome. Joseph Fares. I don't know how to say your last name, but cool dude. He's got enthusiasm for days. Big one for me, at least, is Onimusha. I was a huge fan of the Onimusha series, especially the first one back in 2002. Oh God, I'm old. But that one was just such a serious world, very dark, it's feudal Japan once again. But I'm curious what they're going to do bringing it back. Is it going to be closer to the sequels? Is it going to be closer to the original? I think the interest in the Onimusha franchise may have been driven up from the Netflix anime that was released, but we could have a really cool game on our hands. I'm curious to see too if it's going to be a fixed camera like the old Onimusha, or is it going to be an open camera, free camera, third-person action game? Very curious about that, but I'm glad we're coming back. In 2026, we're gonna have it again. That's Capcom, dude. Capcom is they're hiring. They're hiring. Outer Worlds 2 looks like it's gonna be a great time. This is gonna be kind of the Obsidian's answer to Starfield with their big dad Bethesda. Now, one thing I will say about Outer Worlds is that it does have more character than Starfield did. So this one actually has, it's not as far as Borderlands character, but it does have something else a little bit different than a straight up NASA punk game like Starfield was, that was taking it very serious. This one seems like it does have really cool elements and it looks great. So I never finished the first one, but I am definitely down for the second one here. Last of Us Part 2 is coming to PC. I'm not gonna play it. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is coming to PC. Probably not going to play it. And then Borderlands 4. We saw a little bit of it, and it seems like no one's excited for that, dude. Seems like no one's excited. I don't feel the fervor at all for this franchise. The movie flopped. People didn't like Borderlands 3 because of the writing. I really haven't played it seriously since the second one. Even the first one. The first one really captivated me back in the day. And then it seems like the art style is kind of bleeding into more real versus the art style that they had in the past. So it's like, how do you bump up the graphics of this type of cell shade going on? And I guess they are taking it away. So we'll see. I still feel like that game doesn't have that much excitement around it, so not sure what's gonna happen there. Virtua Fighter. If you used to play Virtua Fighter back in 1995 at your local Fuddruckers, just like me, then you're gonna be excited. But honestly, I don't really play fighting games, so I'm not really super into this. I'm sure there's some people around that are like, holy crap! But I like Mortal Kombat. I didn't buy the last one though. Sonic and them are getting into cars. Okay. Saber Interactive has returned, and they are now making the new Turok game. Now, if you're under the age of 20, Turok was a big franchise back in my day, and I think it stopped in around 2008. Like the PS2 era was really the ending of the Turok franchise. So glad to see it back here. It's now looks like a third-person action game, shooting game, and it's made by the same people as Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2, which I love that game, by the way. Feel free to check out my review. Had a great time with it. Loved it. So I just finished Secret Level and we watched the Pac-Man episode. Very, very weird. But I will say, I'm glad to see something new from Pac-Man is being made. Not only that, but that short that they made is getting turned into a game. So this is Shadow Labyrinth, and it's taking a really different take on the Pac-Man franchise than anything else before. So this one actually might pique my interest because of how weird it is. You do have Pac-Man elements as well as side-scroller action, so I'm down to try it, and congrats to them for trying something new. I think that's cool. And that's really my most favorite announcements. That's the stuff that really interested me. And then, of course, we can talk about what this show was supposed to be about, which was the awards. So the big winner of the night was definitely Sony and Astrobot Team. Now, again, I think this show was a little bit Sony-centric. I mean, I guess you did 30 years and it's the top-selling console of the current time, so maybe you're catering the show to it, but Astrobot? Really? To have the critics who voted on Game of the Year be so much different than the viewers' choice awards, it's kind of like the Rotten meter on Rotten Tomatoes and then the audience score. When the Rotten meter is like 25% and the audience meter is like 85%, something's weird. Almost like critics think the same thing. And honestly, how many more of you are even out there? Hello critics? Are you even out there anymore? It's a hard time for you too, huh? But it's just crazy to see Player's Voice winner was Black Myth Wukong, with Genshin Impact, Elden Ring, Wuthering Waves, and Zenless Zone Zero being the other Game of the Year nominees from the players. But then the actual Game of the Year nominees was Astrobot, Black Myth Wukong, Balatro, Elden Ring, Final Fantasy VII, and Metaphor Refantasio. So there's some similarities, but man, to me it seems a lot different. But yeah, Astrobot and PlayStation were the big winners. Astrobot walked away with 4 wins. Metaphor had 3 wins, and it looks like Black Myth only got 2 wins, with one of them being the Player's Voice. It really still shocks me that we give airtime to weird things. I know esports is big in the scene, and like League of Legends and content creators, stuff like that is very important, but I don't know. It seems like those are taking the place of awards that could have been shown on air and with the actual development teams. Now, speaking of the development teams and their speeches, the Baldur's Gate 3 director who won last year for Baldur's Gate 3, he came up and gave a particular speech that might have ruffled a few feathers in the audience. What he was talking about was the hard times that the industry is having and humanizing the workers, the developers, the people who are making the games, but also the people who are buying the games. He's kind of using this analogy of talking to an oracle and what is the Game of the Year 2025 going to be, and he's holding this veil of this oracle by saying what the development team should be that wins the Game of the War 2025, and a couple of parts struck me. He said the winner of 2025 didn't make it to increase market share, they didn't make it to serve as a brand, they didn't have to meet arbitrary sales targets or fear of being laid off if they didn't meet those targets. And furthermore, the people in charge forbade them from cramming the game with anything whose only purpose was to increase revenue and didn't serve the game design. They didn't treat their developers like numbers on a spreadsheet. They didn't treat their players as users to exploit. They didn't make decisions they knew were short-sighted in function of a bonus or politics. They knew that if you put the game and the team first, the revenue will follow. They were driven by idealism, wanted players to have fun, and they realized that if the developers didn't have fun, nobody was going to have any fun. They understood the value of respect, that if they treated the developers and players well, those same developers and players would forgive them when things didn't go as planned. But above all, they cared about their game because they loved games. So this is in regards to, of course, all the layoffs, but the cramming, the crunch, the weird habits that these game companies have had. And it's really the culture. It's really the development culture. You've seen that change, especially in the last 20 years, 30 years. You know, the 90s, they used to sleep in the office. But it was pretty crazy to see him say that in front of all the big wigs of every single company right in front of him. Some cojones for sure. And then you had Jeff Keighley sort of walking the tightrope. He wanted to give lip service to these workers, and he tried to spin it in a positive way for himself. He also created a new award called the Game Changer Award for that very reason. I mean, you could say that it's for goodwill. I like little softball stories too. It's nice. And call me a pessimist, but it just feels like PR for himself, sort of, and the show. But at the same time, you're accepting all of this advertising, marketing money from these big companies, and they are the ones putting money into your pocket, literally. It's not a bribe. You're selling your ad space on the show for these ads, and by God, there are a lot. But like I said, and then the other time, you're like grabbing the money from them and then like spitting in their hand in the other hand. It's a weird tightrope for Jeff to walk, and I don't know, man. That's a weird one. If Grand Theft Auto 6 comes out next year, do they really meet the parameters that Sven said in his speech? It's Take-Two Interactive. It's Rockstar. This game's been in development for a long time. If they do come out, man, I really do wish that... Not gonna say that they're gonna win, because something else could be really good. But Red Dead Redemption 2 back in 2018 really should have gotten that award. That game was phenomenal. That game was revolutionary, and people are still finding out secrets in Red Dead Redemption 2. 6 years later, bro. Now imagine that care, that artistry in a Grand Theft Auto game. It could possibly be mind-blowing and really a step forward. But again, like I said, I could be surprised. Something else could come out that is absolutely phenomenal and needs to be recognized. The same year that Grand Theft Auto 6 does. But hey, props to them for winning the most anticipated award, and they're not even there. How many years can you keep this? Can you keep getting nominated? It's like, well, we're coming out in 3 years, but they're most anticipated. So they have 3 game awards already. Like, I get it. He wants to sell ad space and he wants to make money, but I don't know, it just seems disingenuous. So that was the show. It was better than last year, and having the Muppets basically be my mouthpiece was kind of funny to see, and it showed that maybe he does have a sense of humor after all, but he's a realist. He's like, man, I gotta sell myself. Get on the corner, Jeff. Anyways, what are your thoughts? Did you enjoy the show? Did you enjoy the announcements? Did you like who won the Game of the Year award? Let me know down in the comments below your thoughts. And as always, if you liked the video, feel free to subscribe. Also, feel free to smash the like button. It really does help out the channel. And again, let me know your thoughts. Thank you so much for watching, and have a good day.
Oh, wait. Huh? There's Kojima, look. Ooh. Did you know that Jeff Keighley's friends with him?
Yeah, but does Kojima know that?